Hey everyone, what is going on? I am so excited to talk to you guys about the Batman. I can finally talk about it. I've seen it twice. I saw it first a few weeks ago in a private screening room, small screen, the second in IMAX. And I'm going to tell you right now, you want to watch this on the largest screen possible, the visuals, the sound. I mean, it reminds me of Dune and how Dune kind of enveloped you into the movie, you know, when we watched it in IMAX. I mean, Denis Villeneuve just did a phenomenal job with that. Matt Reeves has done that with the Batman. As soon as you go into the first few scenes, you know you're into a different film. It just kind of transports you into a completely different world. It is beautiful. It is dark. It is awesome to see. And speaking of darkness, this is not a kid's Batman movie. If you're a parent and you want to bring your 10, 11, 12-year-old kid to watch the Batman, I would think twice. This is very much an essence of Seven, Zodiac, The Joker with Joaquin Phoenix. It is very much in this era of films. It is dark. It's not as graphic as some of those films in some scenes, but it edges right there. This is a very adult Batman story, and I think for adults out there, even fans of the comics who've read some of the graphic novels, who've read some of the more darker iterations in the comic series, you're going to really appreciate this. But for people out there that like some more of that kind of comical, that fun, happy-go-lucky Batman, this is not the character for you. It's a bit scary. Okay? This is a crime story. This is a detective drama. And I love that Matt Reeves has taken all these elements from various different aspects of the Batman through his history in the comics and through different films and through other films that he's, referenced that he's talked about, like French Connection and Chinatown and all these other films. And he's brought it into this world, and it makes it so refreshing because there's a lot of this film, even though we've seen so many iterations of the Batman, right? And we know a lot of his villains already. We've seen some of them on TV and some of them on film. This is a very fresh film. And he's taken some liberties in some of the backstories and some other things. He's kind of referenced some of the comics and some other films that we may know of if you watch a lot of cinema from years past. But he's kind of made it his own, and it's just beautiful to watch. Honestly, I just got giddy watching this film going, yes, we finally get the Detective Comics Batman that we've been wanting for quite some time. We saw little spurts of it here and there through various different films like Nolan's and a little bit in Burton's, but we finally get it in this one in a way that you are going to appreciate. And if you didn't know that Batman was quote unquote the world's greatest detective, you're going to find out very soon he's a pretty badass detective. And he kind of knows his stuff. And it's not just about beating people down. He's actually right up here, which is great to see that. But this film, talking about the film, the tonality and the visuals and sound, it's awesome. You need to see it on the big screen. But this is a long film coming in around 3 hours, okay? You might not want to get up right away at any point in time because you don't know what's going to happen next. So don't drink too much before you watch the movie. Or if you do have a large bladder, okay, go for it. But if you don't, I would say sip and enjoy. All right, so let's talk about some of the aspects of this film that I really liked. I mentioned I love the crime drama. I love the detective story aspect of it. I love how the Batman and Jim Gordon work together. You see it in the trailers. It's great to see that. It really adds another element to the film. We've seen aspects of it before, but you really see it this time. And it takes you on this journey. I really, really enjoyed it. I loved how the Riddler was implemented into this film. It's a Riddler we have not seen before. Do not think Jim Carrey's Riddler. It is very, very different. This is a psychotic individual who is willing to go to any lengths to get his truths. This is very scary in some ways. And what's fascinating about it is what Matt Reeves has done with the Riddler and what Paul Dano has done with this character is that they've created a character that is he almost the same as Batman, or is he different? And that question comes up time and time again when you watch this film, and it makes you think, something to think about. This video is brought to you by Secret Lab. Here at Geek Culture, we love our Secret Lab chairs, especially the all-new 2022 Titan Evo with its revamped 4-way lumbar system for enhanced back support. If PU Leather 2.0 isn't your cup of tea, then consider the all-new Soft Weave, even more soft and breathable than before. The chair comes in more colors, including this lovely frost blue. The Titan Evo is even magnetized, allowing the head pillow to stick on the headrest without straps. Of course, there are even more new features, so do check them out at secretlab.co. fascinating how they did a deep dive into the psyche of the Riddler, which is, I like that because, we always see these characters in the comics and in an animated series or even in the movies, and sometimes we don't think what makes them tick. I think Nolan tried to get into that a bit more, but I think Matt Reeves is digging into it deeper, and it really makes it fascinating to watch. Speaking of that, we have to talk about the Batman and Robert Pattinson. Guys, he is phenomenal as Batman. And he's fantastic as Bruce Wayne. It's a very different Bruce Wayne than we've seen before and a very different Batman. Okay, in terms of Batman, let me take that back. There are sometimes you're watching it feels very much Bale-esque, not the voice, but in terms of his mannerisms. But he has a very different outlook. And this Batman, at times, as you saw in the trailer, is uncontrollable. Or at least we feel that he is. And what Robert Pattinson and Matt Reeves has done with this character is Batman is not quite all there. I don't want to say that. I want to say something. I don't want to be insensitive, but I feel like you could almost say this Bruce Wayne is on the spectrum in some ways. Obviously he's been heavily affected by the death of his parents and by things that have happened, but how he deals with this and how he deals with the world and people around him and just society and his focus, it does remind you of somebody who could be on the spectrum. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's just, that's part and parcel. Everybody has a uniqueness to them. And this Bruce Wayne has something in him that is just, it just drives him to a point. And it's that you kind of go, ooh, you get a little uncomfortable at times with this Batman. You kind of go, is he going too far? I'm not used to seeing this on the silver screen, but it works beautifully. And Robert Pattinson is just, he's the perfect actor for this. Honestly, this is fantastic. I could see him being nominated for Best Actor. I could. And I can say the Batman, Robert Pattinson, yes, I could see him being nominated for Best Actor for this performance. It is that good. Speaking of Batman, we got to talk about Jim Gordon, Jeffrey Wright. I love the chemistry between these two. These are the two detectives on the prowl, on to find what the Riddler's about, who his next victim is, what's going on, what's his motivation. I love the pairing with these two. We get this in the comics quite a bit. We never really saw it. Well, we did see a little bit of it in the Nolan trilogy, but you see it a bit more here. And Jeffrey Wright does a tremendous job with Jim Gordon. It very much is in the essence of Gary Oldman, but he has his own take on it, and I just love what he did with it. He really did. He's right there with the Batman in a lot of ways. Obviously, they have a different outlook and what things they can do based on the law. One's a vigilante, one is a captain, but it's interesting how they interact with each other and how they look after each other. And you could see, I cannot wait to see where Matt Reeves takes these two into the next film or to the next film. I'm excited to see this journey. It really made it fun to watch. Now let's talk about Catwoman, or Zoë Kravitz becoming the Catwoman, because she's not quite Catwoman yet, but very much in essence. But this is kind of a different Catwoman than we've seen before. I prefer this much more than the Anne Hathaway version. I like Anne Hathaway, but I feel Zoë Kravitz really encapsulates this character. She just knocked it out of the park. She's sensual, she's sexy, she's driven, she's a badass. This is going to make her a huge star. She's already up and coming, and she's been doing some great work. This is going to make her a huge star. What Catwoman did for Michelle Pfeiffer, I think Zoë Kravitz is the new era that this is really going to be an awesome character for her, and I can't wait to see what she does with it going into the future with it. Her backstory is very different than what we've seen in other film iterations out there. If you're into the comics, you might see some things. I'm not going to give anything away because these are some of the more surprising elements of the movie, because there's a lot of different characters and they all sort of interact with each other. But I think there's a fresh take for some of you who may not be into the comic verse as much as others. You're going to like what they've done with her character and how they've brought her into the world of Gotham. Let's just put it that way. So let's talk about the Penguin. I'm going to say this. Colin Farrell, I said Robert Pattinson should be nominated for Best Actor in Academy Awards. Colin Farrell should be nominated for Best Supporting Actor. Honestly, you don't know it's him. If you didn't see him in interviews and you did not see the credits or looked on the web, you would have no idea it's him. There's not 1 ounce of the Penguin's mannerisms that even resembles Colin Farrell. They've done such a tremendous job with the makeup, the prosthetics, but it's not even just that. It's his acting. You know what it reminds me of? I'm going to go back a few years in films. The Untouchables, when Robert De Niro played Al Capone. He reminds me of the character Al Capone. There's a lot of his character nuances in the way that he speaks and his mannerisms that reminded me of that. I'm like, wow. And sometimes at one moment I'm thinking, why didn't Matt Reeves just ask Robert De Niro to do this part? Because honestly speaking, I mean, you could have put De Niro in there and it would have been like, okay, there it is. Because Colin Farrell it's awesome what he did with this. As an actor myself, who's acted in TV series here and in some films, I'm blown away by his performance. I am just awestruck by it. He's got to be nominated. If he's not, then I don't know what the Academy's thinking, because this guy is awesome. Let's talk about the Riddler a little bit more. Paul Dano, as I mentioned earlier on to it, psychotic, a little bit crazy, very much in essence of, is he very similar to Bruce Wayne or not? But Paul Dano has really taken this character into a different realm. There are aspects of the Heath Ledger's Joker that you're going to see in some parts of the Riddler here. And there's other aspects that he really makes it his own and really kind of crafting this sort of the psychosis of this character in a way that really makes you... It's very fascinating to watch. And I think what Matt Reeves has done with the Riddler, with the Batman, is he really delves into the mental aspect of these characters. And I mentioned that before, but still, it's part and parcel with how these actors are portraying it. And as such, I mean, having said that, I don't know where Matt Reeves is going to go for, let's say, a villain in the next Batman movie, because I'm sure there's going to be a second one after this. There's going to be for sure, because this Riddler is kind of all the things that we've seen in the past from the Joker and other characters. Now, not in essence of the strength of Bane, but in the mental aspect, he's got it all covered. So it's going to be fascinating to see where Matt Reeves takes this story and takes these characters and takes to find the next villain. Who will it be? Because I mean, Paul Dano has just put them all under one umbrella and then called him the Riddler. And it's just, man, he's effing crazy, man. He is crazy. It's fun to watch. You're going to enjoy it. And he's creepy as hell. Let's talk about John Turturro for a moment. Carmine Falcone. Now, in the trailers, we see him a little bit, but I will say that he is a bigger presence in this film than the movies have made him out to be. I'm not going to spoil anything for you guys, but he is an integral part to this story, to this film, and he plays it brilliantly. He doesn't go over the top as this sort of kind of crime, kind of, mafioso kind of guy. He plays it close to the heart, but it is a beautiful performance by John Turturro. He's scary as hell, man. He's one of these guys you could watch, watch The Sopranos or watch Goodfellas. You're going, yes, he could be right into those films and he'd be scary and he'd be fit right in, and it's awesome to see it. So let's talk about Andy Serkis as Alfred. And I like where they're taking Alfred, because we've seen Alfred portrayed in many different ways. Michael Caine did it, and we had other actors that did in the past. This Alfred, you could see he was the one that sort of trained Bruce Wayne. He was the kind of one that kind of helped create this persona of the Batman. Because Andy Serkis is a very physical actor, and you see a little bit of that in his characterization of Alfred. I don't want to spoil too much. I mean, there are some integral moments with Alfred, but I would have liked to see more. I'll just put it that way. I would have liked to see more of Alfred in this film. Hopefully, Matt Reeves does dig deeper into the relationship going into the next movies, because there's a lot to uncover, and because these are different actors portraying each of the characters, there's a different chemistry, there's a different backstory. It would be great to see how they interact in a much more deeper essence. But now let's talk about the length of this film and my final thoughts on it. There's a part of the story where you think it's going to end because it kind of wraps up the main storyline for the most part, right? I mean, they leave some things unturned, but every movie's going to do that. However, it's almost like Warner Brothers said, Matt, we love this script. We love what you're doing with the Batman, but we need a climactic ending. We need something bigger. We need something that's going to be the Batman people know. And we want that kind of oomph, that larger, grand scale, climactic ending. And so the film takes a different turn, and it almost feels like an afterthought in some ways. Like, it didn't need to end there. You could have ended it right at this point and it would have been fine. And yes, it's not a climactic ending in a way where it's like, wing, bang, bang, explosions and all that kind of stuff. But that's fine, because the movie is not like that. But it's very compact and it's very small in regard. It kind of reminds me of Daredevil in the Netflix series. It kind of keeps it like that, right? It does, at the end of it, it does sort of help complete Batman's journey in some ways. But you could have already added that into one portion of the film. There's one other aspect of the film I felt was a little bit, it kind of threw you out of it. It's a small scene. You see a little bit in the trailer when the Batman jumps from a tall building in his wingsuit, which is kind of like a parachute suit. But when you see him flying through Gotham or gliding through it, because it is a real suit and you do glide with these things. There's a part of that scene where you just feel it's just so unrealistic. And I kind of felt like they were trying to figure out an interesting way to get out of it. But as a result, they kind of pull you out of the movie for a moment of that realism, that groundedness of the Batman. And you're kind of like, yeah, that's a little bit of a cheap way to get out of it. Come on, Matt, you've been doing such a great job. Why'd you do that? But they get out of it really quick and they never reference it again. My final thoughts on the Batman. This is a very violent Batman. The fighting is awesome. It's very visceral. It's very violent. This is a Batman that does not hold a punch in any way, shape, or form unless he wants to. I love the detective aspect to it. It is very dark. It is very cerebral. This is a movie that will challenge the mentality of even your hero in a lot of ways. That's going to kind of put things in perspective in a unique way that I think is fascinating and refreshing. There's a lot of interesting takes to the backstories of some of the characters that I don't want to give away because that's spoiler territory, but it is refreshing as well. But I just absolutely loved this film. It is the Batman film I've been wanting to see on the silver screen for quite some time. The Dark Knight was my favorite Batman movie thus far, one of my favorite films of all time. And this is right up there with it. It is really that good. I don't know where Matt Reeves is going to go with another film, but we'll find out. He's put basically 2 films into one with this one. So anyway, those are my thoughts on the Batman. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Do you agree with me? Do you disagree with me? Any thoughts you have? I'd love to hear from you guys. Subscribe to the channel if you can. Like this video. Take care, stay safe, and I'll chat to you soon.